I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono.
Here.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Here.
Mr. Medio. Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Sabrina.
Present.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Present. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following: announcing time, place, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Vista Bueno, the Clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. I'd like to call Durand School up now to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. If you guys would just stay there, please. Mr. Fiocchi and Mr. Holmes have something for you.
Mr. Greco, Ms. Tomlin, come on up for the picture.
Mr. Musteral, is there a resolution for executive session?
There is. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the City of Vineland School District will convene an executive session for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12. Discussion is about any matter involving any collective bargaining agreement, any matter involving a proposed lease, and any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent the confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer.
Do I have a motion and second?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Executive session now.
Are we doing presentations first?
We're going to go into executive session.
Thank you for your patience. We have two presentations this evening. First, I would like to call to the podium Mr. Mike Garcia of Fort Scott Associates, LLC, to present the 2022-2023 audit reports. We know that you will provide us with a very quick overview of our audit.
Sure, I will. And Mr. Mustarell did pass out a synopsis. It's a 3-page document with a cover that summarizes the information in the full audit report, which is almost 200 pages long. And I will refer to that in a moment. But first, as a quick reminder, when it comes to doing the audit, we're doing more than just looking at the numbers. We're making sure that the district follows the rules and regulations that the state imposes, the state and the federal government actually impose on all school districts. The audit process will involve, at the beginning, evaluating internal controls that the district has, reading the minutes of the board meetings to determine whether transactions are properly authorized, and also to see if there's anything discussed in the minutes that might have a financial nature that relates back to the audit. Cash, your most significant asset is obviously your cash in the bank, so we do spend significant amount of audit procedure and time making sure that the cash is properly accounted for, deposited into your banks, and reconciled to the general ledger. Ultimately, monthly, Mr. Mustarell submits to the board the monthly board secretary's report to show all of that activity. So we do testing to make sure that those monthly reports are correct, and then obviously also the year-end reports. In the areas of revenue, we, on a sample bit, we tie in your state aid to make sure your state aid is properly deposited and recorded in your records, your property taxes received from the municipality, as well as other special revenue fund grants. Expenditures. On a sample basis, we test payments to vendors to make sure that the district is following the rules, and that if payments are made, that there is an actual valid invoice that relates to that expenditure. We make sure that the vendors are paid in the proper amounts, the proper budget accounts are charged, and that bids and quotes are obtained when required. In the area of payroll, we do testing to make sure your employees are paid properly in accordance with their collective bargaining agreements or other salary authorizing documentation. Your employees have various withholdings from their paychecks for voluntary insurances, pensions, as well as taxes. We sample to make sure that those calculations are done properly withheld, and then ultimately remitted to the proper agency or taxing authority. Your employees are required to contribute towards a portion of their health insurance costs, and we recompute those calculations to make sure that that's being done properly. The district does maintain numerous student activity accounts, so we also do testing in those student activity accounts to make sure that the receipts and the disbursements are also properly recorded. Annually, the district reports to the state, to the Department of Education, enrollment numbers. Your state aid is based on those enrollment numbers, so it's very important that those reportings be done accurately. And so we do test the annual submission to the state for both transported students as well as overall students on roll, to determine that that's properly recorded so that you get all of the state aid that you are due. Your food service fund. Your food service fund is substantially funded through federal and state subsidies, so we do significant testing in that area to make sure that you're following those rules and requirements. I will now slide over to the synopsis that was handed out. The first page is just a cover, but then the next page we have where the findings and recommendations are reported. I'm happy to report there are no findings and recommendations, so you'll see on this page here in all of the areas where, that are summarized, the word none, meaning it's a clean audit, no findings and recommendations. The next page in this synopsis is a recap of the revenues and expenditures. And then the final page is really the item that I want to draw everyone's attention to, because this is where you ended up. And on that last page, I did handwrite some numbers, or some amounts and descriptions in there, just to remind everybody exactly what these numbers represent. So what we're going to be looking at in the bottom of this page is the surplus or fund balance that the district ended the year with. Quick recap. the state imposes a 2% cap on school districts' surplus. For several years during the COVID pandemic, that amount was raised to 4%, but we are now back down to 2%. Whenever a district has funds in excess of that 2% cap now, that money is set aside and must be used to fund a subsequent year's budget. So as we go through here, the items that you'll see, under fund balance, the first item, the first component is the maintenance reserve in the amount of $5,619,640.77. As a reminder, those funds are set aside and can only be used for the repairs and maintenance to your buildings. Right below that, we have an item that's marked Reserve for Excess Surplus in the amount of $10,087,888.65. This is the amount that you were above 2% at June 30th of 23. That amount is now being used, will be used to fund the budget that you're working on tonight, the 24-25 school budget. So those funds, that $10 million is now pledged towards that next budget for the school year that begins on July 1st of 24. Right below that, we have excess surplus that is designated for subsequent years' expenditures, and I've made a note next to that, and that note is 23-24. So the $9,821,000, this is the amount that the district was above 4% 2 years ago. That money was set aside and was required to fund this year's budget, the 23-24 budget, so the year that we're almost done with. Right below that, we have a reserve for unemployment in the amount of $772,000. Those funds are set aside and can only be used to pay unemployment claims. We also have an amount that is assigned fund balance in the amount of $4,681,193.45. I've also made a note there for the board members, 23-24. And that money, in addition to the 9.8 that we just talked about, was also used to fund 23-24 school budget. Moving on along, we have assigned fund balance for other purposes. Those other purposes are encumbrances, which just means the money was set aside to pay vendor bills that were due and payable for the 22-23 year, but as a normal operating procedure, the vendors don't get their paperwork in to be paid until July or August. So that money is ultimately now been spent for 22-23 purposes. Finally, it leaves us with the unassigned fund balance, and I've put a note there, 2%, because I've got some detail below it. When you look at it initially, it's in brackets, the $9 million in brackets, 2%. And down at the bottom, you'll see in a blue box, it's important to remember this particular statement does not include the final state aid payments. As a reminder, the state of New Jersey withholds the June state aid payment for all school districts. You ultimately get that money in July. The state shifts it into the next fiscal year. So we have the negative $9 million, but your final state aid payments are $13,753,556.80. When we add those two together and net those two numbers, that's your true unreserved 2% surplus in the amount of $4,687,618. Remember, that's the 2% number. Last year and the year 2 years prior to that, you were allowed to go to 4%. We're back down to 2%. You have your full 2% plus the reserves that we talked about. And once again, just to repeat, the audit itself was clean, no findings or recommendations. It's always a pleasure to be here in Vineland, and I've made the comments on the areas that I think are most important for the board and the public to be aware of in a limited amount of time. If there are any comments or questions that you have for me, I would be happy to answer them. You're very welcome. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you. Next up, the one and only Mr. Scott Mustarell, Business Administrator, will present the 2024-2025 preliminary school district budget.
Thank you, Mr. Miano. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my staff and the business department for the clean audit. Shannon Carey, my assistant business administrator, Dave Hart, Millie Torres, Kara Irvine, Gene Massey, all played an integral part in the audit, so thank you all. So this is the 24-25 proposed school budget. The overview is, and the items we'll be touching on is the budgeting process, historical summaries, proposed revenues, proposed tax levy, proposed appropriations, and budget highlights. The process is the administrative team meets and goes through budget planning meetings, principal meetings with the accounting for the school-based budgets. Supervisors and department heads have meetings with the business administrator for the district budget, and we review the preliminary budget with board members to discuss increases, decreases, proposals, and initiatives. We've done that through multiple committee meetings and strategic planning meetings. The projected enrollment for next year is going to be 97, 93. It's 5 students over what we projected for this year. So these are the proposed revenues for next year. So you'll see 22, 23 all the way to your right. There are actual figures for tax levy, Medicaid, state aid, etc. The 23, 24 is in the middle. That's what we have budgeted currently this year. And the 24, 25 is what we have budgeted for next year projected. We're again asking for a 6% tax levy increase. Please note that 6% results in $2.221 million for a total of $32,070,421, and we'll discuss that later as well. Medicaid is $422,627. State aid, I'm happy to report, including extraordinary aid, went up by $8.9 million and change, which is wonderful. I think it's pertinent to let you know that that is not a lottery ticket. That is a life preserver. There's a lot of items that we thought we were going to have to do that we no longer need to do, such as cutting all our capital projects, using $2.5 million in maintenance reserve, using surplus from our health insurance fund for $1 million. Thankfully, we won't have to do those items just to balance our budget. Miscellaneous revenue comes in again at $945. And as Mr. Garcia touched upon, the use of fund balance is $11,021,021. He reported $10,087,000, I think it was. But there's also, you're also allowed to use your excess extraordinary aid in addition to that. So the total actually comes to $11,021,638 that we've used from the 22-23 school year to fund our total budget, which is $195,944,661. That's the general fund. If you factor in the grant funds, which you'll also be approving, the grant funds are another $28.4 million for a total of $224,391,924. This is a graph of that picture of those numbers, the revenues. You'll see that state aid is 77% of our district budget, significant. And tax levy is 16%, and then we have some miscellaneous revenues such as use of fund balance and Medicaid. So there's a state computation. They call it your local fair share. It's been called other names too. According to the state, our local fair share should be $73,469,463. So that is what the state's calculation says we should be using as our tax levy. Our proposed tax levy is $32,070,421. So we are $41,399,042 below what the state is saying our fair share is. So keep that in mind. So our school tax, this is the last 5 years, but we'll direct your attention to the 24-25. The comparables or the assessed valuations are $3.954 million. The average home assessment is $161,990. The proposed tax levy is $32,070,421. The proposed tax rate would be 0.8109. That's an increase of 4.59 cents, and it equivalents to a 6% increase. How does that affect your average homeowner? It's $74.35 per annum to the average homeowner. I thought it was necessary to show you the tax rate and break it down between the school, county, and municipal for the total tax rate. There's 5 years worth of data here. I'm going to go right to 2023 and show you that the county's tax rate is 1.263, the school is 0.765, and the municipality is 1.135 for a total tax rate of 3.163. Now, you'll see the next line tells you the percentages. So of our tax rate, the school levy is only 24.19%. The municipality is 35.88%, and the county is 39.93%. If you look up the averages are usually between 50 and 60% for a school tax levy. If you extrapolate those numbers into dollars, the county is $49.3 million. This is all based on 2023 because that's the only year we have all the data for. The county and municipality haven't struck their 2024 rates yet. Pardon me. The school last year or this year was $29.8 million, and the municipality was $44.3 million. So in essence, the county is 65% higher than what our tax rate is, and the municipality is 48% higher than what our tax rate is. So I urge you to keep that in mind when voting for the tax increase. Appropriations, this is our cost centers. 22-23 again is actual, 23-24 is budgeted, and 24-25 is also budgeted and projected for next year. Now you'll see at the bottom of the screen for 24-25, $198,875,893 is more than what I told you the revenues are. It gets complicated, but that's because the school-based budget also has money that's contributed from Title I and Title IIA for whole school reform. So that's why the cost centers appear to be higher than the revenues are. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but out of the $198 million, $54 million is instructional, $23 million is special ed, facilities is $15 million, benefits and payroll taxes $43 million, so significant areas of cost there. This is a picture of that. You can see the big red triangle is our regular instructional and categoricals, and the big gray is benefits and payroll taxes. Together, those two pieces are 49%. I thought this was pretty interesting to mention as well. If you look at our district budget of $196 million, $138 million of that, or 69.4%, is just salaries, benefits, and payroll taxes, while the other $60 million is 30% of our entire budget. So I wanted to go through some budgetary changes from last year to this year. Obviously, we had a state aid increase. I've already talked about that. We know that's not a winning lottery ticket, and it is a life preserver. So $8.9 million there. We increased extraordinary aid, an additional $500,000. The tax levy we're proposing is $2.2 million. Reduction in vocational tuition is $1.2 million due to some credits we have. We have a decrease in tuition allocation, so that helps the budget by $273,000. Decrease in one-to-one nurses for $70,000. We have a reduction in back-end technology for $200,000, knowing that the following year we're going to have to invest money in our back-end technology probably around $800,000 a year at that point. We had some one-time facility costs that we were able to cut out of the budget to the tune of $490,000, and we had some breakage. The health benefits increase comes to about $2.2 million, and that includes hospitalization, which increased by 8.5%, prescription of approximately 4%, a nominal dental vision projected increase, and then we have an increase in our Chapter 78 and Chapter 44, which is the employees' contribution to their health benefits. So this is showing you where all that money is going. The $8.9 million we received in state aid, the $2.2 million we're projecting for taxes, some of the other savings we were able to, but now we start to get into increased costs. Increase in insurances and workman's comp, like liability and automobile, that's increasing, we're told, by $450,000 or 15%. Our PERS annual payment for the pension system payment went up by $300,000. Some lease purchase payments are ballooning at $210,000 additional money. We're adding armed guards to the budget for the 24-25 budget. That's $1.6 million. We're increasing one-to-one technology at the K-5 level to the tune of $250,000. Our preschool inclusion amount, which is an expense to us and a revenue to our preschool, is $352,000 more than it was last year. We're adding additional special education classes, $884,000. There's 8 positions that were funded from ESSER 3 this year, but ESSER 3 is sunsetting. So we have to fold those positions, because we need them, into our district budget. That's $900,000. Pardon me. Fund balance differential is almost $3.5 million. That's just the difference between what we can use in fund balance, that $11 million I explained, versus what we used last year, which was more. So that's a negative impact on our budget for next year. Our salaries are going to go up contractually, $1.9 million. Utilities are increasing by $200,000. The charter school tuition is increasing by $740,000. There's an increase in EIP costs that the supervisors are requesting to go to the schools, $566,000. We have an increase. Instead of cutting all our capital projects, we're actually increasing them by $270,000. Some of the budget highlights. School security. We have revised security services, including supervisory structure. We're adding armed guards, as I mentioned, to the budget. We're increased the substitute pay rate for security. Expanded the school security hours to include an hour before and after school. We added security cameras in all elementary schools and implementing visitor screening software in all our schools. For transportation, we're continuing our TransFinder investment. This includes the student finder, which will continue to allow parents to track their children while on Vineland buses. Adjusting tier times is in the plan for next year. Expanding training program, continuing our investment in modernizing our transportation fleet, and increased volume of garage services. We're doing a lot more things in-house than we used to, and saving money in the process. Special education, we're adding 6 classrooms, as I mentioned. Due to increased classifications, we're adding 4 autistic classes, 1 resource room, and 1 LLD for a total of 6 in-house teachers and 12 aides. Facilities, we've had multiple SDA grants that are allowing us to attack the VHN Tanner Building sectional roof replacement problem. We are also planning on Memorial, replacing the Memorial 1998 edition section. and we're adding Phase 2 cameras, which is our elementary schools. We're going to go through a district-wide energy-related improvement through an ESIP, which is an Energy Savings Improvement Plan that's conducted with the state. It's all guaranteed. The idea would be we invest in our infrastructure and our buildings, and we would save money on our utilities to pay for it. Vineland High School North, HVAC replacement in the classrooms. Dan Barcy, roof replacement. Concrete repair at Memorial, Winslow, and Johnstone. Some sectional painting at Barcy, Winslow, Vineland High North and South. And some exterior door repair at VHS South. Some of the capital objects that we're budgeting, we have communications equipment, $15,000. Long-range technology plan, $105,460. Transportation vehicle, $40,000. Custodial cleaning equipment, $50,000. And the construction, which is the sectional Barcy roof replacement, and pardon me, Vineland High School heat pump retrofit for $2 million. Some budget highlights for the program and curriculum. Critical curricular resources and student options through the following activities. Continued focus on foundations. Continued focus on ELA and mathematics, K-12. Support data-driven instructional decisions. Focus professional learning communities, PLC activities. We're going to focus on improving instruction through evaluation rubric upgrades and training. New middle school science program, curriculum. Continue to provide professional development for all staff. Revise curriculum to meet the updated New Jersey state standards for ELA and math. Continue to revise curriculum across content areas to meet state mandates. We're going to continue to focus on supporting and expanding career and technology pathways for construction, agriculture, studio, graphic design, automotive, health pathways, and cybersecurity. Continue to expand portrait of graduate implementation and articulation district-wide. Expand social and emotional learning support for students, including restorative practices. We're going to continue to implement STEM curriculum in the middle schools with Project Lead the Way. We're going to continue to implement career exploration in the middle schools. Continue to encourage and expand teacher advancement with degrees. And expand college partnerships for students seeking early college credits. That's the dual credit program. I want to say thank you to the cabinet, Mr. Yano, Mr. Fry, Dr. Sneathen, Ms. Godlewski, Dr. Rossi, and Mrs. DeMarchi. The business office, Shannon Carey, David Hart, Millie Torres, Kara Irvine, all the principals and supervisors, and of course our esteemed board. It was a team effort, $196 million plus grants. It's a long process, but I'll take any questions you have now.
I would like to thank you and your team for doing everything that you did. I know it's a lot of work, and I know before we got the numbers with the new state aid, you were really going through a lot to try to figure out how to get us a balanced budget.
Yeah, before that it was $1.1 million shortfall, and we had to do a lot to get there.
Right. And I'm going to ask my board members to please, even if you have questions tonight, but please review this, talk to Mr. Mustarell if you have any questions before our next meeting next week. Ask questions now if you have any, but please reach out to him from now till then.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. I don't need to answer any questions tonight. If you don't have them, I'll process the information I've given you. If you have any questions over the next week, because we're voting on this next week, but if you have any questions in the interim, please contact me. We can meet in small groups. We can meet individually. We can go and answer anything that you need to be answered. on any level?
Because then we do the public hearing.
Seeing no questions, I'm going to take my seat. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comment on the HIB report? Seeing none, do we have any questions or comments on the approval of the minutes, February 7th, 2024 combined meeting, and February 7th, 2024 executive session? Questions, comments? Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono,
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi,
Yes.
Mr. Medio,
Yes, on the combined meeting, abstain on the executive session.
thank you. Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do we have any committee reports? Mr. Fiocchi?
Good evening. The Finance Committee met Tuesday, March 5th at 8 a.m. via Google Meet. In attendance was Mr. Mustarell, Mr. Yano, Ms. Carey, Ms. Codispoti, Mr. Silva, Mr. Rivera, and myself. Following topics were discussed. Grants and aid, advanced placement, international baccalaureate course expansion. Following bids and RFPs. Student support services, there was only one bid and it's going to be rejected. Plumbing and HVAC was won by Alaska Mechanical. Before and after school, there were 7 bids. Evaluations are still pending. Electrical service bid will be open on 3/6. Painting bid will be open on 3/13. Transportation supervisor has been selected and will be on the agenda tonight for approval. Camera project, we are doing a change order to include Winslow, Delago, Sabatier, and the annex for exterior site cameras. Also for tonight, approval for RFP to go out for the ESIP program. The Rise Up Cafe is up and running. And lastly, we discussed the state aid increase and budget update. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on Monday the 4th. Present were Mr. Yano, Mr. Marchi, Dr. Sneven, Mr. Silva, Ms. Acosta, Mr. Sabrana, Ms. Godalewski, Mr. Stanger, and myself. We discussed schools in comprehensive and targeted status. We discussed sending a Google form to view interest in piloting iPads in the classroom, grades 3 to 5, special education programs for the 24-25 school year, gifted and talented program for K through 8, and the summer curriculum writing. Transportation Committee met on Tuesday the 5th. Present were Mr. Mustarell, Mr. Yano, Mr. Rivera, Ms. Acosta, Mr. Bono, Ms. Blakely, and Ms. O'Brien, and myself. Driver recap for 23-24, there are 150 drivers budgeted, 140 route packages or drivers needed, 137 filled positions, 13 subs, and 6 drivers in training. Average absences in the morning is 19.90. Average absences in the afternoon is 23.85. Registrations, 22 open registrations. PK enrollment has officially started. There are no jointures, 2 accidents in February. Team concept, December meet and greet. Director was on leave. Will resume once position is filled. The garage, new backfilled mechanic starting soon. Turbos. Buses, we are close to receiving 2 buses. We are pricing the outsourcing of routes to help with the transportation times due to attendance issues. Tonight on the agenda, there's a new director, Ms. Betty O'Brien, up for a board vote. Our priorities are outsourced discussion, tier times for next year, consolidating current routes, and TransFinder. Thank you.
I'd like to amend that agenda or those minutes. I apologize, it's my fault. Ms. Acosta and Dana Blakely were not present at the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Medio was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further committee reports?
Yes, I have one more. We had an ad hoc meeting with Sedesco, at the meeting. It was myself, Mr. Medio, Superintendent Yano, and Business Administrator Scott Mastrell. We went over some suggestions for after-school activities with bagged meals for any extracurricular sport-related activities, any after a certain time where you get into the dinner hour. We talked about that, and then we talked about possible using Wallace School production kitchen for the food science CTR, or CTE, excuse me, curriculum. And we have another meeting on Tuesday to go over that as well. Thank you.
Anything further? Board Solicitor.
None.
We don't have a student representative comment tonight. Public comment on agenda items or any other matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any yellow sheets?
Yes, we do. Stephen Soloff. Regarding communication, Mr. Soloff. Stephen Plevins. Regarding community school at Sabatier.
Okay, my name's Steve Plevins, and I know a lot of the guys on members of the board. Some I don't know, and I'm from Vineland. I was born and raised in Vineland. I graduated from Vineland High School, and I was president of my high school class at Vineland High. Then I went away to college. But I'm here that was a little introduction. I'm here to talk about the Sabatier School, the community school. I want to just go over a little bit about my background. I was Director of Recreation for Prince George's County, Maryland for 11 years, and I had 4 community schools under me, which I started, I organized, and I supervised. And also my graduate work, my master's is in recreation and after-school activities. So I wanted to share with you, my experience in that area and how good these schools did for the community. Also, believe it or not, I had a community school right here 20 years ago at Landis Middle School, and it was called Broaden Your Horizons. I was the president and CEO of the organization, and we utilized the gym and the classrooms around it for the program. When we had the gym open 5 nights a week, we had kids come in and play ball, and we had other programs in the gym. And in the classrooms, we had programs like modeling. I partnered with Barbizon Modeling, and I got 4 or 5 girls professional modeling jobs. Dance, we had drama, and we had tutoring, all in the classrooms around it. And this particular program, Broaden Your Horizons, turned into the Vineland Boys and Girls Club. It was a local organization turning into a national organization. Boys and Girls Club found out about it. Their New York office came down, looked at it, and that's how we got the Boys and Girls Club, here. But also, I want to mention that I was on the original committee for the Sabatier School, and I wrote up a lot of the, charter stuff about the school. And the Sabatier School right now isn't run the way we originally set it up, And my goal is, to have it how we originally set the school up. And we had it set up where there would be, administrators, an organization that would administer the school. And after studying the different groups in Vineland, I found that the PAL would be a great, organization to do that. They already have a contract with the board, but I've studied their program, and it's an excellent program. Also, right now, I'm meeting with the county prosecutor's office with Jennifer Webb, and we're trying to set up 3 community schools in the county, 1 Vineland, 1 Millville, and 1 Bridgeton. And Vineland, the Saboteur School, would be a perfect setup for that. And funds, come through the county prosecutor's office. And also to mention, when I had the after-school program here...
Mr. Plevins, I have to ask you to please finish up.
Okay, I'm finishing up. I tried to, go over everything, but my goal is to maybe form a committee or to continue this talk, because I think it's going to be, a real plus. It's a treasure to Vineland community to set up a full community school at the Saboteur School, and I like to see that, continued on with a committee. All right, thank you very much.
Superintendent recommendation.
Yes, thank you. Requesting discussion and approval regarding personal item 1.1 as noted on our agenda.
Do we have any questions or comments? I have one comment. To everybody retiring, there are almost 230 years combined. Mr. Camardo, 38 years. I'm going to really be sad to see you go. Mrs. Johnson is also leaving at, yes. We wish you well. Good luck to whatever you decide to do, but congratulations on your soon-to-be retirement. Roll call, please.
So moved.
Sorry, motion.
A second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi? Yes. Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, and
Mrs.
congratulations.
Cottis? I'm sorry.
Thank you. And congratulations to Ms. O'Brien.
Yes, and congratulations, Mrs. O'Brien.
Congratulations, Ms. O'Brien. Ms. O'Brien, would you like to say a few words? You knew that was coming. You can't be surprised.
Thanks. I just really wanted to tell everybody thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I have over 10 years experience in transportation, starting off as a driver and working my way up. So I'm hoping to bring all my ideas and knowledge, and coming from a big district to, size-wise, student-wise, to this one's bigger geographically. But bringing that and hopefully making improvements that we need, that we can use, and making it a better department, making it a happier department and more successful. So, thank you. That's it.
Requesting discussion and approval of procedures and operations. I would like to move 2.1 through 2.4.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio? Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Cottis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Requesting discussion and approval for finance items 4.1 through 4.22. It's quite a large group, as noted on our agenda. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Mr. Medio?
Student services at item number 4.20 is approval rejecting the following contract for student supplemental services. and we've decided we've decided to abandon the project for provisions or performance of the goods or services.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi? Yes. Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Gottesbody?
Yes.
Motion carries.
There are no regular agenda items. Proposed items for review or discussion or adoption by board members. I see none. Approval of the itemized bill pay list for January 2024. Do I have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio? Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Gottesbody?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Emergent items, none. Old business, none. New business. We have the superintendent evaluation process that will begin. The evaluation pre-conference is tonight. The superintendent will input his information, and it'll be due by March 29th, 2024. The board members will then go in and complete their online evaluation of the superintendent. That is due by April 19th, 2024. The board president and NJSBA will compile it by 4/24/24. The board will go into an executive session to meet and review the data. That'll be due by May 1st, 2024. The board president and designee will develop an evaluation summation with New Jersey school boards, and we will share it with the superintendent prior to the summary conference. That'll be before June 5th, 2024, and the board and superintendent will have a meeting and go into executive session on June 17th, 2024, to go over his evaluation. And in the meantime, everybody here, the board should go in and do their self-evaluation also. Okay, board member comments. I'll start with Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Durand Dolphins Safety Patrol that came and led us in this flag salute. Fins up. I'd like to congratulate all our retirees. Mr. Camardo, congratulations on your retirement. I just recently, within the last year or so, was able to get to know Mr. Camardo a little bit, and now you're leaving. So I hope it wasn't because of me. But congratulations, Mr. Camardo. Well-deserved. Thank you for your service to the school district, and all the retirees, thank you for your service to the school district. Last week, a few of us were able to attend the CTE Carnival at Vineland High School. Tremendous event. I'm so proud of the team over at Vineland High School that put together this carnival. It really showcased the program, all the available choices and options for our students to engage in and to be part of. And I'm really excited for what that's going to do for our school district. I'm really excited what that's going to do eventually to the economy and to the city and to this county. It's really something special, something that, puts us above other options that may be out there for our students. So if you're really thinking about it, I really encourage parents to really educate yourself more about the program, really tell your kids and have your kids look into it, because it's a really special program and it's offered here in Vineland, nowhere else. So thank you for that, for the team that put that together. I had opportunity today to go to a couple schools to read to some preschoolers over at Del Lago and some third graders over at Durand. And that's always a special event to go see the kids. This is why we do this. Is why the number one reason why I wanted to be a part of this board is because of those kids. And those kids make it worthwhile every time they smile and every time they give you those high fives, and they all want to hug you at the same time. It's great. It's great to have these kids, their smiles, and see the impact that you have in them. Other than that, thank you so much for everything that you do, the school district, the staff, the teachers, everyone. We're looking forward for the rest of the year where we have a lot of things coming up A lot of exciting events coming up, and it's always a good time. So thank you and have a great night.
Mr. Sabrata?
Thank you to the group from Durand. I had the pleasure of also reading there today, Mrs. Fiocchi's fourth grade class. First, I thought it was a joke because they gave me a book, Nonna Strega, so it tested what little Italian I know, but it turns out that almost everybody got one of those books. Congratulations to our retirees, especially you, Mr. Camardo. You're one of the last ones standing from when I was an employee, unless my memory really fades. Wasn't that at the Adult Education Center across the street, which is now what? Oh, I don't know, is there a supermarket there again? Well, whatever. But I always enjoyed working with you, your dry sense of humor, and thank you for your service in the military as well. Looking forward to a little better weather. Today was the kind of day I don't like going outside, but I do miss being with the kids. That was always the most rewarding part of the job. And whenever I wasn't in a great mood, but if I had to go take a picture somewhere, just the energy of those kids, it kind of gave me a boost. And I do miss that. But that was a very well-behaved class. They were very attentive. And I even got them to fess up on what their career aspirations were, which is kind of cool since it was only fourth grade. So that's about it. Thank you.
Mr. Silva?
Yes, I'd like to thank the Durand students for the flag salute. I'd like to thank Mr. Mustarell and his staff for a clean audit report. Mr. Mustarell, I know you're putting in a lot of work in this budget cycle, so we do appreciate your dedication.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all the retirees. Mr. Camardo, had the pleasure of meeting you in the early 2000s in the technology department. It was a pleasure working with you, so I wish you the best on your retirement. That's it for me. Thank you.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes, just want to thank Mr. Mustarell and his team for the thorough presentation they put together. I know there's a lot of work that goes into that, but it's much appreciated. And congratulations to all the retirees as well. Thank you.
Mr. Medio?
I'd like to echo the comments of the four previous board members. There's no reason for me to repeat them. I think we all agree wholeheartedly on everything that was said. Mr. Plevins came forward tonight about a program he wants to implement at Sabatier. When Sabatier was originally awarded to Vineland, the idea behind it was to make it a community school and have access for the entire community on an expanded basis. And what he's talking about is exactly what the original plan involved. That would involve taking students and bringing them into the school at night, participating in not only sports, in the gym, but also, as he said, having different classes, having different presentations, have them meet people. We have a role model breakfast at several of the schools. He's probably talking about re-implementing what he did before and having actual role models come in on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I imagine that, well, that also involves PAL. And I guess the main point with all that would be if students are being supervised by adults, if they're, enjoying themselves and participating in something good and healthy, that's that much less time that they have to get themselves in trouble. So I'm very anxious to see what he brings forth in that. Thank you.
Mr. Bono?
Okay. Thank you to the students of Durand Elementary for the flag salute. Weekend of February 23rd, 24th, and 25th, I completed the required governance year one new board member orientation. It was a great weekend. I don't get many weekends off in my field, but it was a very nice weekend weather-wise, but I was stuck inside learning about awesome school board stuff. So thank you to the Vineland Public Schools for that opportunity. I also attended the CTE Carnival last week, held at VHS South. What an awesome event for the students, experience to learn about the CTE program that Vineland High School has to offer. The educators and administrators that put that together, great job. I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Camardo on your retirement. Best wishes to all your future endeavors. Thank you for the years of service provided to Vineland. Also like to congratulate Vineland High School and the collaboration with RCSJ. Attended that event as well at Vineland High School South on the collaboration between the two to create a pathway for our student base to graduate, potentially graduate with an associate's degree. What an opportunity for our students. I'd also like to congratulate VHS swim teams, both men's and women's, on a successful season. They both made it to the playoffs. The women's team made it to the second round, and they had some really great swimmers this year, and good job to all the coaches involved. Keep it going. And last, I'd like to thank Scott Musterell on putting the budget together, you and your team. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of numbers, and yeah, good job. Thank you. Yep.
Mr. Holmes?
Nothing at this time.
Superintendent?
Yes, thank you. I want to congratulate Danielle Weir, guidance counselor at Menny's Elementary School, for being named the 2024 Starfish Award recipient, and to Mindy Roman for receiving the Child Study Team Case Manager Award of Excellence. Thank you for all the support you provide to our students and their families. It was already mentioned, we had a wonderful morning with RCSJ. A lot of our board members and community members came out to help support our dual enrollment pilot grant from the New Jersey Department of Education. Super excited about the opportunities for our students in that program. On February 9th, we had our Community Partnership Action Committee, our first one of the 2024 school year. The focus was on food and housing insecurity, featured representatives from throughout the district, the county, the city, who shared resources with us about what is available in the community. It was an excellent day and very informative. We had our second strategic planning meeting on February 28th. The event had a great turnout, more than 60 participants. We identified 4 areas that will form the goals of the strategic plan. The third meeting, the final meeting, is on March 19th at 6 p.m. here at Landis. Looking forward to having a great participation again as we round out our strategic plan. The carnival was amazing. I'm surprised Mr. Rivera did not tell you about the superintendent's attempt at singing a Rihanna song in karaoke. It was a great day, but we really saw our students shine, and it was exciting to see our students kind of navigate, through all the different CTE programs. So thank you to Suzette DeMarchi, Kim Rivera, and the CTE team, our teachers, our students, for the work that they put together to just kick off an amazing event. And I'm also appreciative for all of our board members who made it out that day to see our kids in action. Cap and Dagger Club performance of We Are All Stars, a coming of age review this Thursday and Friday night, 7 p.m. VHS South. Let's pack the house. It's going to be an amazing evening and support our amazing performing arts department. I also want to say a quick thank you to Mr. Bono, Mr. Medio, Sodexo, Pravesh Patel, Mr. Musterell, where we had a meeting about how we can support our students in the after hours who spend many hours, on their way to different programs, athletic events, or practices. We want to make sure they have food and snacks to keep them and hold them over for their events. That meeting was organized with the assistance and the participation of Mr. Medio and Mr. Bono. It was a good conversation, and hats off to our Sodexo partner and Pravesh Patel for kind of putting the details together in our athletics department. Mr. Haynes, who's our substitute athletic director, and Sylvester Schiflalio, Ashley Sale for putting in the logistical work behind the scenes to make it all happen. We're getting all the pieces together so we can launch it this spring. Again, it's been an outstanding start of the month. We're looking forward to continuing to celebrate all of our students with Read Across America activities. Our board members, it's great to catch them reading to our students when we go into the different schools. They are exciting times with our students and our staff members when we get to see our board members engage with our community. It's a wonderful day when we see that happening. Supporting literacy. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Durand Elementary School for being here to lead in the flag salute. Thank you, Mr. Plevins, for coming out and sharing your ideas. To our auditor, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Mustarell and your staff, thank you again for your hard work and your dedication for putting together the budget presentation. You are appreciated. Our central administrative team is appreciated, as well as our entire staff, our principals, our teachers, our security guards, our bus drivers, everyone, our maintenance. I don't want to leave anybody out, so our entire staff, we do appreciate you. To our retirees, congratulations. Mr. Camardo, Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for your service. You will be missed, along with the other retirees. I'd like to remind everyone that it is that time of year again to start registering your preschool students. For preschool, I've asked that the information be shared on the website and social media, and I believe it's already has been done. I had the honor of attending the signing ceremony for the dual enrollment program between VHS and RCSJ. This is such an exciting time for us. This is going to, I think, present an opportunity for students that might not have been able to do some things. So I'm really excited. I had the opportunity of doing the strategic planning. It's very interesting. My partner over there probably won't be there, Mr. Rivera, so he won't be the reporter or the recorder. I attended Black History Month along with Mr. Rivera at Cunningham. I've read at numerous schools last week. I'm still reading this week. I just love to see the kids' faces, and they just love to talk. I had a 5th grade class yesterday who will be emailing me their ideas as to what they believe the district should have and shouldn't have. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those. Ms. Kat Rivera, Ms. DeMarchi, the whole team, the staff at the high school, I cannot tell you how excited I am about the CTE, the carnival and the program. The students were phenomenal, showing us all around. The staff that was there, they were great, had a great time with the little games that we played, and everything kind of, culminated into what it was about. I'm excited to see how we can grow that program. I don't believe there's anything else, so I'm wishing everyone a good night. God bless everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second?
Second.